Hello and welcome back to another episode of ToolBox TV. This week's episode has been inspired by the conversations we've been having about a marketing calendar. I know we talked about it some months ago in our member-only webinar, and it was raised again in this month's member-only webinar. And I've been promising to download the template, which I have here. That's the word-based template for my marketing calendar, and I also have an Excel version of the same one. Now, for various reasons, I actually prefer using the word-based version, but you'll be able to download both versions somewhere around the bottom of this video. If you're watching this in the member area, there'll be a copy there for you to pick up. But I thought it'd be unfair to just sort of drop the template on you without some kind of an explanation as to how I operate my marketing calendar, because I would guess in most businesses, depending on the size of the business and depending on what the business does, your marketing calendar is going to be different from time to time. So rather than just opening up my template and seeing the information I've put in there, I thought I'd do a run through on this week's ToolBox TV so that you could see the elements that make up the marketing calendar and how to go about putting your own marketing calendar together. Now, I think there's three important things to consider when looking at your marketing calendar, and the first of those we use in all of our marketing. In everything that we do marketing wise, we have our marketing tools. Now, the tools that we will use will, again, depending on what we prefer, will consist of a number of different things. In the main, we normally have leaflets. We will have adverts of various different types. We may present articles to magazines, or indeed we may repurpose those articles and use them as blogs on our website. And of course we have email campaigns that we use as well. Certainly if you're building a database of your customers, then you should actually have an email database. So that's just a selection of some of the tools that I would use in my marketing. And we need to understand, or we need to know what we have available to us that we can deploy when we're working on our marketing calendar. So as I said, that's a selection of the things that I use: leaflets, adverts, article that I would present into magazines, or blogs that I would put on my site, or maybe guest blog on somebody else's site, and email marketing. I'm sure there's other things that you would think about as well. You may use radio advertising or billboard advertising. You may have signage that you would put up in your local cricket club. Whatever the actual tool is, your marketing tool is, then you need to know what you're going to have available to you to use when you're looking at your marketing calendar. Hope that's starting to come together for you. The next thing we need to do, obviously with the calendar, is to understand what events we have during the course of any given year. And of course, there are lots to choose from. There are all sorts of events that you can choose from throughout the course of the year, whether they are bank holidays, whether they are religious events, whether they are old traditional events, particularly just traditional events from around your area. There's a number of different things, so it'll pay you to do some research, particularly locally. And bearing in mind, most of what I encourage and what I talk about is local marketing. So a lot of my calendar will be filled with local events, things that, for example, there's the Dickens Festival here in Rochester, and when that comes about, I will send out an email blast just generally talking about the Dickens Festival. Each year I'll mention something different, and again, it's not necessarily selling electrical services, it's marketing. It's keeping my name on top of the tongue of my prospective customers or my existing customers, and to talk about something that's familiar to them or something that they may be interested in means that they're not just going to go, oh, he's trying to sell something again, delete. So that's the essence of marketing, as I think you as members would know that by now. So the thing is to understand the collection of different events that you have locally as well as the national events. So do some research, look at the national events and have a look, see what's going on in the country, and then look at a local level, what events have you got that are particular to your locality. Hope that's making sense. For example, I mean, on February, in the month of February, we have a number of things. Let me get a different colour here. We've got a black. In the month of February, we have things like Valentine's Day. We have Pancake Tuesday. And then there's a particular favourite of mine. There is, I think it's the Friday after Shrove Tuesday, was known in the UK as Kissing Friday. So you've got Kissing Friday. That was an old tradition after Shrove Tuesday. And I think the tradition went something along the lines of any boy could kiss without fear of any kind of retribution, could kiss any girl of his fancy on Kissing Friday, any boy, any man. Obviously we've gotten a lot more politically correct now, but that is still a recognised day or a celebrated day, although not widely. However, it makes an interesting little quirk if you wanted to build a blog piece around it, or if you wanted to build a small email campaign, because it'll just pique people's curiosity. Again, different things will suit different people. What works for you, or what you're happy to work around, won't necessarily be what I would use, but each to their own. As I say, if you can find something else locally that you can use as a bit quirky, then do that also. Let's look at the month of March. We've got the very typical one in the month of March. We've got St. Patrick's Day. So we've got obviously daylight saving. That's a big one, obviously, for electricians. And then we've got International Women's Day is sometime in March as well. Yeah. So this is just looking at a segment of the calendar. We've got the months of February and the months of March. And in there we've got a number of different events that we could build some form of marketing around. And like I said, marketing isn't necessarily about selling. Now, there's a very good one in there for selling, which is daylight saving time. Because at daylight saving time, you can blatantly remind people about clocks that need to be changed or altered, whether it's for heating systems or whether it's for outside security lighting, whatever the case may be. So you can sort of almost blatantly make an advertisement out of that and put yourself out front. With the other events, with things like Valentine's Day, Pancake Day, Kissing Friday, St. Patrick's Day, International Women's Day, not exactly big ones for promoting yourself electrically, if you like, but they're great ones for keeping people, keeping your name in front of people, because if you have something to comment on, if you have something to say about these, then you have, using some of your tools, a way of doing it. You could very easily write a blog about International Women's Day. It could be based along the lines of, we could do with more women in the industry, you know, there's not enough women electricians, so on and so forth. You could do an email campaign, almost around the same sort of topic. And I'm just picking on our industry for the moment and saying, you know, we could do with more female electricians in the industry. Turn your email campaign into a survey. So ask questions, get your customers interacting with you. Do the same thing on your Facebook page. But these are things that keep your name on top of the tongue of your customers, your potential customers and your existing customers, so that they know who you are and what you're about, so they come back to you time and time and time again. So it's not necessarily going, oh, it's International Women's Day, why don't you buy some extra sockets? Yeah, it's not that kind of tactic, if you like. But using the calendar, we can see we've got a number of different days that we can promote. And of course, with the calendar, it goes the 12 months across, and there are different events in each month. And there are a number of events in every single month that you can promote. It doesn't matter, like I said, whether they're religious festivals. Obviously, you wouldn't promote, or you wouldn't send Christmas cards out to a Jewish family, or you may not send Hanukkah cards to a Christian family. You don't be aware and be sensitive of what you're actually doing, but there's no reason why you can't send out greeting cards, Christmas cards, St. Patrick's Day cards, so on and so forth, but not necessarily from a religious perspective, if that makes sense. I can get away with sending St. Patrick's Day cards to anybody because I'm Irish, and of course the Irish celebrate St. Patrick's Day, so it doesn't matter if I send a St. Patrick's Day card out to a non-Catholic or a non-Christian family. It is merely a celebration day for me, but you obviously pick the tools that you're going to use, pick the celebrations that you're going to work around. The Valentine's Day, the days, there's a vast amount of them. Sporting days, another big one. I'm not into the football or anything like that, but if you can work things in around football fixtures, that may be another way that you can use the calendar to work for you. The purpose or the idea of doing it is to sit down on a given period of the year. Now for me it's normally October, but sitting down at a particular period of the year and then working your calendar forward, filling out the days of the calendar and the events in the calendar that are coming up. So if there was something new happening in the UK, for example, if we were, again, like hosting the Olympics or anything, you would have dates in there so that you could say, right, is there anything I can do around that? Which leads us on to the next thing. You've got your events filled into your calendar. The next section of your calendar, of course, is your actions. What are you going to do around those events? So you have your events and your tools coming together to give you an action that you can create around these events. Now, the way the calendar works, it would be silly to start looking at dealing with St. Patrick's Day in March, because it's in March. 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day lands. If you're only thinking about it then you've missed the boat, is the bottom line. So what you need to do is look the month before, or even further back, depending on the event or depending on the scale of the promotion that you're planning to do. You need to look further back in order to get to the event that you're going to get to. Again, I hope that's making sense. So that's why, first of all, go through and list all of your events. Then you need to think, what could I do around that event? So if I say I'm going to, on St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to send out St. Patrick's Day cards to all of my customers. I'm going to have a Kent Electrics card printed at the printers. I'm going to have it personalised, and I'm going to send a copy to all of my customers on my database, or all of my potential customers that I have previously carried out quotes for. So what I would do is I would order those cards back here in February, so that I know I'm going to have them on time for the March, for sending out on St. Patrick's Day, or ahead of St. Patrick's Day. So what I would do is, in my marketing calendar, I would put St. Patrick's Day card order. So I know that February I have an action to carry out, which is going to get me to a marketing event in March. I may then also be looking at March. I'm thinking, we've got daylight saving coming up, so I need to start reminding people about daylight saving ahead of the event. I need to start promoting what it is I'm offering at the time, whether it's, I'll pop around and change your clocks for half price, or whatever the promotion is that you want to run. You need to be thinking ahead of that. So I would want to set up a daylight saving email campaign, perhaps. And again, it's pointless me doing it on the month that the event runs. I need to get it done ahead of the event. And sometimes that would be the month before, and sometimes that may be a number of months before, so that you have your plan in place, ready to action at the time that you need to action it. What else would we do? International Women's Day is coming up, so I would need to start looking at what am I going to do around that. And going back to my tools, I can have a look into, well, leaflets aren't going to help me with that one. Putting an advert out isn't going to help me with that one. I could perhaps write an article about it and submit it to the local magazine. I could perhaps do a blog about it. or I could perhaps do, as I said earlier, like an email survey or something. But let's say for me, I'm going to do a blog. So we'll do blog post for International Women. And that is basically how my February would look. So I have the events for February, which are coming up, which I would have prepared for back in January. I have my preparation for my March, so I know what I'm going to do, and I know what tools I'm going to use in terms of doing it. Now also, of course, you have a lot of your repetitive marketing, the stuff that you will go on time and time again. And for me, they will be things like my newsletter, which goes out every 2 months, and my leaflets, which are done sort of every single week there's leaflets going out, but on a monthly basis I'm covering certain areas. So those would just go in and be fit into the calendar right the way along the year if you know what it is that you're doing. So for talk's sake, for me, I have my leaflets, let's say, for Maidstone and Westmoreland will go in month 1, and then 3 months later that same block will go in again, Maidstone and Westmoreland, so we're going back over that. Leaflets for Chatham and Rochester, month 2, 3 months later that goes in again, and so on and so forth, and it cycles round, so that every 3 months I'm going back over an area. But they're in the calendar to ensure that I know what areas are being done at what time of the year, what month of the year. And also the newsletter. Again, if my newsletter is going out in March, I would be working on it back here in February, getting it ready. So what you don't want to do is have to take up all of your marketing time in March to get a newsletter out that you haven't prepared beforehand. Now, if I'm honest about it, a lot of my newsletter work is prepared well in advance of that, because ideas will strike, my Google Alerts will bring up certain things for me, something in the area will occur, and my notes will go into I use Evernote, my notes will go into the Evernote file, and then we'll take it from there, and we'll just build the newsletter from there. And once you start doing that, guys, I know you don't have to, at the moment, sit down and write up all of your own newsletter material, because you have materials, whether it's articles, blogs, newsletter material, all inside the member area for you. But if you were to sit down and start from scratch, it doesn't take long before it actually starts becoming an easy process, because you start to build things over the course of the month, and you see things and you save things and you put emails away, and different alerts come up and you put them away. And what I do, they just all go into my Evernote, and then when it's time to sit down and write the newsletter, and again, I don't do it all in one lump. I sit down during my marketing hour. When I'm sitting down to do my marketing hour, I will have dedicated slots where I'm working on the newsletter, and that's the same for any of these events here. The time to work on those is during your marketing hour. So if you decide that St. Patrick's Day you're going to have a card created and sent out to get back from the printers, then it's one of your marketing hour slots where you will sit down and design that card, decide what you want in it, decide the wording that you want in it. Again, I can't stress, your marketing hour is not for doing the business of your work. It's not your invoicing, it's not your putting your quotes together or sitting down doing your certificates. Your marketing hour is for marketing, and these are the things that you work on during your marketing hour, the actions that you need to be deploying in your marketing calendar. So I hope in some way that has helped to explain how to operate your marketing calendar. As I said, in each different area you may have different events that you can promote, but the tools invariably will be much the same, and the actions that you take will more or less be pretty much the same as well. And I hope you get the whole concept of, for February's work you need to be looking at January or further back. For March's work you need to be looking at February or further back to create your actions and get them ready. And of course for April you will be looking at March, and what we will be looking at in April. I mean, if we're looking for April, we're talking about April Fools perhaps, and we're talking about Easter. Can't think of how other events are coming up, but if that was the case then, so on April Fools you might write, say, a funny blog on April Fools. You get a comical blog up on your site. maybe something to worry your customers about, so something that would make them think, oh, you know, you've seen the type of thing every April Fool, but let's say something like electricity is now being generated over radio waves, but something that piques their curiosity, not trying to sell them, but trying to keep them interested in what it is that you do. So a blog for April Fools, and perhaps again, in Easter, you want to think about sending out cards to your customers, or you may send, say, to your letting agents, your estate agents, you might bring in a small Easter hamper with chocolate in it for the girls in the office of the estate agents. So here in March, you would be looking at sourcing your Easter hamper, or something to that effect. But the point is, you're not doing this day by day, month by month. You sit down at a set time every year. As I said, for me it's normally around October, sometimes it slides a bit, but normally October. You sit down at a set time every year, you lay your sheet out, you work out the events that are in the calendar. Now, like I said, there are loads, but you don't have to promote for every event. Decide on the ones that you want to use. Decide on the ones that you want to build a promotion around. Whether it's because you want to, because it's fun, or because it's easy, but pick the ones that you want to work with in the calendar, put them into your calendar, then decide what tools you have at your disposal that you want to use, and then create an action for each of the events, so that you can say, on St. Patrick's Day, I am going to do, boom. You put that action in, so you know then, you've set up everything ahead of schedule. So when the time comes around, you don't have to think about what am I going to do for this promotion? How am I going to generate work for this month? What am I going to do that this is happening? You've planned all that already. So all you have to do is, when it comes to your marketing hour in that particular day, week, slot, you're looking at your calendar, which you'll have either on your wall or on your desktop computer, and you say, right, coming up we have Valentine's Day. Coming up we have Pancake Day. What did I say I was going to do? Well, for Valentine's Day I'm going to do a blog on. For Pancakes Day I'm going to do an email campaign on. For Kissing Friday I'm going to do a whatever you're going to do. Like I said, I hope that helps. If you have any questions on it, you've got the email address, guys. The download for the calendar, both the Word one, the simple Word one that I use, will be below this video. There's also an Excel one, which is a little bit more intricate, but I've got to say I prefer using the Word one. I did use the Excel one for a short period of time. Whatever you feel comfortable with using, they're down there below. If you have any questions, send me an email. But until the next time, continue to learn and grow, and I'll see you in the next video.